And thank you for sponsoring this bill. I appreciate, as someone who is ardently pro-life, that there are people in Congress who are willing to sponsor these sort of bills, to stand up for the voiceless. You, sir, are the one who sponsored this, and I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. You know, Liz, I have to suggest to you that the whole purpose of government is to defend those who can't defend themselves. I mean, our whole essence of our country was this notion that we held certain truths to be self-evident. And among the most significant of those, that we are all created. And that's what makes us equal. And if we are created, if the Imago Dei, the image of God, is stamped on each soul, then they are of unfathomable value. And if we don't protect the least among us, then in the final analysis, we'll never have the courage to protect any kind of liberty for anyone. So it's not a small issue. It goes to the core and the essence of the whole ideal of our country.
Right. All of our other rights are built off of our fundamental right to life here. And this is a shocking statistic, too, Congressman. The United States, as of right now, because as of right now, abortion after 20 weeks, late-term abortion is legal. We are one of only 7 countries in the world who allow abortion after 5 months of pregnancy. We are in the company of Canada, China, the Netherlands, North Korea, Singapore, and Vietnam. 190 other countries around the world have banned this practice. We're one of the few left who hasn't.
Well, you know, and the reason for that, a lot of people know about Roe versus Wade, but they don't know about Doe versus Bolton, which was another Supreme Court decision that was handed down the same day as Roe versus Wade, with the understanding, obviously, the courts knew that those would have to be considered in tandem. And they made this idea of being able to protect children in late-term pregnancy almost impossible. And it's just a disgrace that beggars my ability to articulate. And I am, you know, so convinced that if the American people really recognize the humanity of these little babies and the inhumanity of what was being done to them, there would be everybody would have a different mindset over it. And the good news is that about anywhere from 65 to 70% of Americans are strongly in support of this bill to protect pain-capable babies. And it only starts protecting them under this bill at the very beginning of the 6th month. And so that anyone that would doubt that the babies can feel pain at that age simply don't, or they're just not aware of the medical facts. And so, you know,
they're simply not paying attention to the science of the whole thing. And this is an interesting statistic that I want to add to what you said. Actually, in my generation, the millennial generation, 79% of millennials support this bill, support banning late-term abortion. I always like to say it's because we're the refrigerator magnet generation, that we've seen our younger brothers and sisters, the ultrasounds, the 3D ultrasounds of their faces on our refrigerator doors. We see the humanity inside the womb here. We've also been part of a generation that has seen babies survive outside the womb as early as 21, 22 weeks, the same age where right now it is legal in the United States to abort these babies, even though they meet the, you know, so-called viability test.
Yeah, well, you're so right, and I couldn't agree with you more. I think that that's why the younger generation, and it's been so encouraging to me because I'm not really in that younger generation anymore. I see them coming up, and I see the understanding of it, and I believe it's just simply because the information age has opened up the womb to where we can see the reality of this child. And I'd also say to you, you know, we named the bill the Micah's Law, or Micah's Law. And the reason we did that is because there's a little guy here who was up on Capitol Hill. His name is Micah, and he's 5 years old, and he was born at 20 weeks after conception, 20 weeks after fertilization. And he's fine. He's outpacing his kindergarten peers right now. And so the bottom line is if we don't have the courage to protect these little guys, I think that we lose sight of who we really are. And my hope now is that the U.S. Senate will have the courage and the determination to bring the bill to the floor, and that they don't let Democrats filibuster the bill. If they do, they should break that filibuster, because this is just too important to see thousands of late-term babies torturously killed every year simply because the Senate can't bring themselves to do what's necessary to bring the bill to the floor.
Right, because they're so tied up with abortion lobby money here. Planned Parenthood spending tens of millions of dollars on their campaign. By the way, Micah, the boy that you're talking about, is the most beautiful, the most vibrant little boy that you've ever seen.
He is amazing.
He's simply wonderful. But over in the Senate, Congressman, there are 4 senators who have expressed support for this type of bill or who have previously voted for this type of bill in the past. Because this bill, as you remember, came up to vote in 2015. But Senator Bob Casey from Pennsylvania, Senator Joe Donnelly from Indiana, Senator Joe Manchin from West Virginia, all 3 of them voted in favor of this bill just 2 years ago. Senator Heidi Heitkamp, she voted against this bill in 2015, but during her campaign in 2012, she expressed that she told her constituents that she was opposed to late-term abortion and would vote against it. Those 4, I think, we need to keep an eye on because they are the ones who I hope and pray have the courage to say, listen, this is not a partisan issue. This is the life of our fellow Americans at stake here, and we need to protect them.
Well, I'm so glad you mentioned that. You know, those 4 are all Democrats, and that's what we need. We need, you know, the whole notion that Democrats stand up for the little guy is really being tested here. It was unfortunate that we only got a very few Democrat votes in the House for the bill, and somehow I don't know how in the world that they think that this is furthering the cause of their party by staining the nation's foundations by the blood of our own children. I just don't understand that. I can only say to you that all through history, whether it was slavery or whatever it might have been, when people finally understood the humanity of the victims and the inhumanity of what was being done to them, hearts began to change. And so I'm encouraged right now. We've got a guy in the White House that cares about these little guys, and I just pray now that somehow America will come home to who she really is.